Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Joshua, who is going to be an advanced token wheel character coming to RTS. Joshua looks like he's going to be part of the Whisperers. He is part of the Whisperers. We've seen a Joshua before. I think the very first one that was released was part of a Hordes event when that was first entered the game. I think that was quite a long time ago now. Quite visually cool character. You know, obviously as a Whisperer, got bits of walkers everywhere. You know how it goes. On the right hand side you can see he's holding what looks like a default blade, so I don't think he's got an attached weapon. We'll have to see later on. He's got like a crowbar attached to his leg. I don't think that's going through his leg, but I think it's attached to his leg. Another tool on his belt basically. On the left hand side you can see he's kind of like fearful, as it looks like a walker has just been taken out by somebody else. Is that Mike's spear? It potentially could be. It potentially could be. If we look at his stats, at level 1440, limit break 3, he has got 14,155 attack, 29,884 defense, and 34,602 HP. He is a fast character, of course, holding that default weapon on the right hand side as a blade. He is going to be a tank. He is, of course, going to be a Gold Mythic, and he's going to be joining the Whisperers Allegiance. Potentially could team up with the current Whisperers that are in the game. Now the first thing we're going to look at is the Adrenaline Rush, of course, and it is called Infected Barrier. This character gets 100% defense for 2 turns and heals for 50% of their max HP. Confuse 2 enemies for 2 turns. While on a defense team, a single enemy gets 100% infection, 50% extra for each living teammate for 2 turns. So 3 parts to this. The self-heal and defense buff is nice. It's going to keep him very tanky, obviously, that extra defense. There is going to be maybe a turn in the middle of this where he won't have that defense buff for the turnaround, but that's just the way it is. It's a pretty good defense buff though. 100% is nice. Heals also obviously good. Big heal. His HP is his biggest stat, so that's obviously going to be nice. The Confused 2 for 2 turns is obviously great. We don't have too many Confused characters on defense, but there are a couple, but that's kind of good. And then the last part with the infection is potentially extremely deadly, because I think if this goes off when he's got his entire team alive, it's either going to be a 300% infection or 350% infection. I think 100% infection would be very hard to heal for an attack team, because there aren't too many like healing characters on attack teams, but 350% would be pretty much impossible. The only way you're going to be able to do it is you somehow cleanse that, and there aren't too many cleansers on attack teams either. It'd be like kind of self-cleanse with someone like Headcracker or something like that. That would be the only way around it. We'll see how that infection works, what sort of percentage we can get it to if we have a full team alive with Joshua. We know that the base is going to be regardless. If it's just Joshua alive, it would be 100% infection. But let's see what it would be like if it would be Joshua plus 4 teammates. Okay, so we have got the Adrenaline Rush up of Joshua here. This is just to see basically if it includes Joshua as one of those characters that are alive. So I did say 100% would be the minimum, but if it includes Joshua, 150% would actually be the minimum. We'll have to see where the actual infection lands. We will have a little bit of a heal coming from William, so we'll have to just pay attention and hopefully see it before it gets healed. We did see it land on William, and it is 350%. It should get healed a little bit, and it only gets healed by 39%. Not much at all, as you can see. Like, it's going to be very hard to actually get rid of these. 350% infection if the entire team's alive. That would mean that if Joshua is alive, it should be 150%. And just to put that theory to the test, we'll just have him rush with just Joshua being alive. The infection will come in, and I'm guessing it would have been 150%. Very nice when it comes to the entire team alive, and not too bad when it's just Joshua alive by himself. You can see the buff that he has on himself with the 100% defense, and obviously he would have self-healed if he actually had lost HP. Now if we check out the upgrades on the Adrenaline Rush, you can see at grade 2 it gets an upgrade, while on the defense team a single enemy gets 100% infection for 2 turns. At grade 4 it gets an upgrade where it confuses 2 enemies for 2 turns. This is only going to require 1 copy, so not too crazy to come by. Then we have LB1, which is 3 copies. The AP cost of this rush gets reduced to 55 AP. And I'd say that's quite important. 66 AP on a defense team is like borderline okay, but it can slow you down by a turn. And you kind of would want to get this rush off reasonably quickly, as it is actually quite powerful indeed. LB3, we have the 5 copy upgrade, where it gets plus 50% infection for each living teammate. Now this basically means that anybody who gets that is in a lot of trouble. Let's be honest, in a lot of trouble. 350% infection potential is crazy. Now this does only work when Joshua is on a defense team. If you have him on an attack team, it will confuse, but that's about it. And I would not say that it's probably worth it for that. The infection is nice though. 2-turn infection. You are going to get 2 turns on your attack teams, but after that your character will just get taken out unless you manage to heal 3.5 times their max HP, which is, like I say, absolutely crazy. That would be crazy for defense teams to have to deal with, and they have healers. Attack teams, same sort of deal, but they have barely any healers. So this pretty much is a death sentence to whoever it lands on. I'd say that LB1 is a must, even if it's just not for stats, but for the speed of the rush. You want this to go off as quickly as possible. Generally speaking, a character on a defense team will have a first or second turn signature move, which means they'll have a natural 3rd turn rush. But if you don't get this down to 55, there is potential that they would actually get a natural 4th turn rush, which is for sure not what you want to see. So a pretty good rush adds some extra kill potential maybe to these Davy defense teams, which don't have too huge kill potential, other than maybe I think there's like 1 or 2 characters that just do quite big defense based hits or something, but the infection is like just something extra added in there. And of course there's obviously the rest of Joshua's kit to look at. And the next thing we're going to take a look at is the signature move, of course. It's called Decay and Disable. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. 2 enemies get minus 50% attack for 2 turns, while on the defense team, those enemies get normalized for 2 turns. This is a turn 1 defensive normalize. This is very, very powerful. This is more powerful than any offensive normalize that exists, I believe. This will only work when Joshua's on the defense team. I think the majority of normalizers out there only do it to single target or to specific traits, whereas this is to 2 for 2, which is very powerful for a normalize in general. And this means that any particular specialists, especially on your damage dealers for instance, would not work. Follow up, decap, these sort of things, and this is where a lot of the power is on damage dealers. Without a specialist skill, you lose quite a massive chunk of, you know, how useful a character can be. So this is going to be very problematic. Of course, turn 1 as well, you can obviously stop the turn 2 potential. Like, I hate it when someone who's on my team who gets normalized, someone like a command. We've had normalized towers recently, and I still use them to command, and I was like, oh right, yeah, they're actually normalized. Whoops. But yeah, if it lands on the wrong character, very problematic. You're not like going to get like decaps, like I say. You're not going to get follow-ups. It's going to make it a lot harder for an attack team to get things to happen quickly, and obviously to the level that you're kind of expecting it to. Okay, so here we are off of turn 1, and we are of course going to have the signature move go off of Joshua. Now it's worth noting that the way that his signature move is going to work, it's going to select 2 characters that he will do attack down on, and if he's on a defense team, they will also get normalized. This means that he can potentially focus leaders to give them an attack down, but obviously they don't have a specialist skill, so they won't get normalized. Effectively, they're permanently normalized already. So I'm going to defend on Clementine and see where this lands. It's going to land on my command, and it's going to land on the leader, like I said before. Now, obviously, the way it works with the command is if I take a turn on Ghost, I defend in this case, I would normally be able to defend action on Laura, and then Ghost would get another turn, whether he did an attack, you know, he defended in this case, whatever he would have done. This is obviously not great for a command, and it's lasting 2 turns as well. So it's going to slow down the speed of your fights just quite a little bit on attack. Now going into the upgrades on the signature move, you can see at grade 3 it gets an upgrade, while on the defense team those enemies get normalized for 2 turns. At grade 5, it gets -1 to starting cooldown, so it goes from a turn 2 starting cooldown down to a turn 1 starting cooldown. And at grade limit break 2, it gets an additional -25% attack down, going from -25% up to -50%. I would say the upgrades on the signature move are actually really nice in terms of how they order them. A lot of the time they put really powerful ones at like LB2 or LB3. This way you're getting some of the better ones very early. Even if you only get the character to like LB1, it's still going to be able to normalize 2 enemies for 2 turns, and it's going to be turn 1. A lot of characters that isn't going to be the case. Joshua potentially could be a bit more powerful, not being as high grade. Just the higher grade you get him, obviously, as always, the more stats, the better survivability he's going to have on the defense team. So it is better to have him at high grade, but isn't necessarily what you have to get this character. And that could be quite good for some people out there who don't have a huge amount of pulls and want to see if they could get this character. And if they get unlucky, they only get like 3 copies, he's still going to be useful in that case. It's going to be interesting to see how the Normalize works when it comes to like in a normal fight. We have seen it in towers, and it is very, very problematic for your attack team when they're normalized, and that's just for 1 turn. This is 2 for 2. Obviously, it's going to be much more problematic, especially if it lands on the really important specialist on your team. I'm thinking mainly like Sophia and, for instance, Laura on my teams are the ones that have the biggest effectiveness. It's going to have the biggest problems. I have got a decap or decap potential on some of the other slots, and that isn't as problematic. It depends on how slow you are at generally taking teams down. But yeah, obviously having a command or Sophia or being normalized is not very good. And there's not much you can do about it on an attack team. There's no resists out there for normalize. There's nothing like that. So most of the normalized resist stuff is all piled onto defense teams. So attack teams are kind of vulnerable to this. And that makes Joshua kind of decent when it comes to what he's going to be able to do to these attack teams out there. Remember, it does only work while he's on a defense team, but it would be 2 characters for 2 turns getting normalized if it lands on a specialist. Now, before we move on to the mythic abilities, we have, of course, got a giveaway to do, as Joshua is going to be an advanced token release. We're going to be giving away some advanced tokens. We're going to have 10,000 to the winner, 5,000 to 2 runners-up. All you have to do is type in the comments down below as part of a sentence so that you don't get spammed by YouTube the word whispers. This is going to be the entry phrase. This draw should be in around 10 days. Generally, it's on my Monday streams. Stay tuned for that. I'll message the winners on YouTube, replying to their comments, so make sure you have notifications turned on so that you know that I have messaged you. Best of luck if you enter. Now, back to the video. So now we have Joshua's mythic abilities. These are his passive skills. First up, we have Strength. Because he is a tank role character, he's going to have 40% critical hit resistance. Then we're going to have Fleshy Disguise as a Whisperer. I guess that makes sense. At the start of each wave, 100% chance this character gets elusive for 4 turns. That means that if he does any attacks or gets attacked by any characters, there'll be no AP gain for the characters involved on the enemy team. This is actually quite powerful, of course. It doesn't have to wait for his first turn signature move to get this off. It's going to be from the start of the fight, so you aren't going to be able to kick things off with attacks against Joshua as well if you wanted to prioritize him, and you potentially could based on other stuff in his kit, which we will look at in a bit. Next up is Healthy Rot. At the start of each turn, 100% chance this character heals for 20% of their max HP for each negative effect on this character. This could potentially be, over 100% of his HP healed, and that might not sound good, but if he's got heal reduction, obviously that's going to be important because the heal reduction will reduce the heal he's going to get, but he could potentially heal for more than the max HP that he possibly could. There's no max amount that he can heal for here. It's just based on the negative effects, and there are a lot of negative effects on attack teams which are kind of random, like Trader's passive randomly stuns somebody. We also have characters that potentially stun one character but plus another character randomly. Ezekiel, for instance, Yuletide Ezekiel randomly will just impair characters, stuff like that. So yeah, it's problematic in that case if you do want to have Joshua not heal up. The last one is called Corpse Armor. When performing this character's specialist skill, all teammates get 50% bonus HP. Now, I'll say that this specialist is going to be Bodyguard, and Bodyguard pretty much is going to proc all the time. All the time, because unless you target Joshua first, he will always proc Bodyguard unless he's been normalized or stunned. That's the only way you can actually stop it from happening. And then if he's normalized or stunned, he's going to have healthy rot procced, and it's going to be obviously beneficial for that. But if you don't, you're going to have 50% bonus HP come in, and I want to know if that actually lands on him. Does that land on Joshua? That's going to be something that is going to be interesting to find out. But 50% bonus HP is going to be based on the character that receives the actual bonus HP, which is kind of rare. A lot of the time it can be based off of like Joshua's HP. We see in like specialists like Overheal, but that could potentially be on someone like PK, like 100,000 bonus HP, just like that. Okay, so we'll start the fight, and you can see the defense team here has no bonus HP. Nobody has any bonus HP. I'm going to target Kyle down here with off-duty Shane, who normally does quite heavy damage against alert characters. We're going to do the signature move, and we're not going to do any damage to Kyle. We're only going to do 12k damage to Joshua up the top. And it looks like the bonus HP came in before he took the damage. I think that is OP. I think that is OP. You can see everybody's now got 50% bonus HP. And the damage that Joshua actually took went into the bonus HP. Very powerful for sure when it comes to that particular passive and the way it's going to work with his specialist skill. Actually massively increasing Joshua's survivability. It's nice for the rest of his teammates, obviously, but Joshua's survivability when he does the actual bodyguard is going to be really, really good. And honestly, I think it's kind of surprising, but kind of nice to see that the bonus HP does come in before he takes the damage. And I think that's very, very, very nice when it comes to those passives for sure. It is worth noting, of course, that this specialist skill can only proc once per turn. So that bonus of 50% HP can potentially happen every single turn. Now, if we go over the upgrades on the passives, you can see he gets the first half of Fleshy Disguise at grade 1. And that's at the start of each wave, 50% chance this character gets elusive for 4 turns. At grade 2, he gets the first half of Strength, where it's 20% critical hit resistance. At grade 3, he gets the second half of Fleshy Disguise, where at the start of each wave, 50% chance this character gets elusive for 4 turns, making it 100% total by grade 3. If we move on to the next 2 passives, you can see at grade 4, he gets the first half of Healthy Rot, where it's a 50% chance this character heals for 20% of their max HP for each negative effect on the character. At grade 5, you can see he gets the first half of Corpse Armor, where when performing this character's specialist skill, all teammates will receive 20% bonus HP. Of course, the next one's stacked with the ones I just read out. Strength 2 comes in, making it 40% critical hit resistance. Healthy Rock 2 comes in at LB2, and that makes it 100% chance that this character heals for 20% of their max HP for each negative effect. Then at LB3, Corpse Armor 2 comes in, and then when performing the character specialist skill, all teammates will heal for an extra 30% bonus HP, being a grand total of 50% bonus HP. This does, of course, include Joshua, like I already showed, which was the main thing I wanted to check out, but it was a nice little bonus to see that it actually came in before he took the damage itself, which, like I say, is, I think, very, very powerful. It's extremely powerful for that to be the case, and I think that kind of stuff is kind of OP, like I said, because effectively he could have 1 HP and bodyguard and just get huge amounts of bonus HP up to potentially, you know, if he's got 60, 70k actual HP, he's going to get 35k bonus HP. And you saw like negation of the damage that came in. We'll look at bodyguard in just a second, but there is actually negation of damage when he does bodyguard. So he takes reduced damage and it's going to hit that bonus HP. And this is guaranteed because it says whenever he performs his specialist skill, as much as he can only perform it once per turn, it is always going to happen when he performs his specialist skill. So the bonus HP is always going to occur, unless I think potentially if he does have heal reduction. I think that might be the only thing that could potentially block it. Otherwise, it's just going to go into that bonus HP and not even scratch his main HP. I like that a lot, honestly. That seems like a really nice little combo there. Now, just to quickly check out that specialist skill, just so you get a refresh on how it works. Let's say I was going to do 100,000 damage to a character. He would reduce it by 50% down to 50k, but then he would obviously gain the bonus HP first, and then it would reduce the bonus HP, then going to his main HP. his survivability is going to be really good. A lot of the time, one of the things about bodyguards, as much as I think they're very good, is they can be susceptible to just, you can one-shot a bodyguard by wrecking someone else, so it isn't as big a deal. It's going to be very, very hard to do that with Joshua. Like, you're going to have to hit someone for close to like 300,000 potentially, so it transfers 150k, which is possible if you get lots of defense downs and stuff in place, but it isn't possible too much in the very, very early part of the fight. You know, like I'm talking like turn 1, it's very, very unlikely that's going to happen. But you never know, you could get things set up. And remember, it's the first proc of damage, so again, it might not happen on the normal first proc of damage that you do, but it could happen on like the 3rd or 4th attack that you would normally do on the first turn. So you might have to mix up your attack order. It's just going to mess with your, you know, rhythm when it comes to attacking. And don't forget that the bigger problem as well is 2 bodyguards make things even worse. When you have double bodyguard, you can't even focus one of the other. And I will say this, when there's one bodyguard, generally speaking, there's always another one soon to follow. It always feels that way. It happened earlier on in the Mythic era. It's happened in previous eras too. I'm calling it now. Now, when it comes to Joshua's weapon, it is just the default machete. It means you can just slot whatever weapon you want in his hands. We have actually recently got some pretty good fast weapons in things like battle passes. I think there was an increased potential like absolute defense and increased like fast healing. So you could potentially throw that on Joshua if you think that's going to be a good way to go. Now, the one thing to note is with absolute defense, that cannot block the damage taken from his specialist skill. That can only block targeted damage, so he has to get directly attacked, and it has to be obviously be an attack, not dealing damage. So someone like Sophia's Rush, that can't work. So you might want to maybe think of a different type of weapon. Because he's got the elusive on him, people might ignore him to a certain extent, and they might not attack him anyway, and you can kind of, you know, get a bonus from that if you've got another weapon that you could potentially put in his hands. I don't know if there's any good control weapons out there that are fast, or maybe something that does, I don't know, just something that debuffs somebody. There potentially could be some good options here. If you have any thoughts, feel free to leave in the comments down below. But this was Joshua, an upcoming advanced token wheel character, and he does look like quite a decent tank. Like I said, I think he's going to slot into those Davy teams pretty well. I don't necessarily think he's going to work with Whisperers very well when it comes to the Whisperer bonuses we see already. For instance, Beta has attack and HP boosts, and I think Michelle does a rush basically when someone gets a decap. He's not an attack team character, he's a defense team character, but that does mean we could potentially see a kind of emergence of more Whisperers in the future that potentially could be working with Joshua on defense, or maybe with the attack characters that we already have. We'll have to wait and see what happens there, but that is the end of this video. Do give me your thoughts on Joshua. Best of luck if you enter the giveaway, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.